Hi, welcome to If I Did It, a show where we analyze this all pure kerfuffle from a world not beyond.
That's good. That's a good save.
And I'm your host, Alexio, all joining me doing flu duty, John Nash.
Oh, wait, I forgot the Nate hat. Hold on, I need a hat. I'm filling it for Nate.
Nate's got the flu, huh? And packages are blowing up in Austin. Yeah. You be the judge.
Last week was the Run Westy Run. This week are the suburbs.
Yeah, no shit, man. Oh, there you go. There you go. There you go.
Suburb. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
There. I look like a longshoreman. I'm ready to go.
And EUGENE'S Robinson from Aussie.com, an author of Fight Everything You Ever Want to Know About Asking. We're afraid you get your ass kicked for asking.
Yeah.
Now, Eugene.
Sir.
You're Jon Jones. Bellator claims
Johnny Boney Joni.
Johnny Boney Joni. Bellator claims that USADA is a UFC thing and defiantly signed suspended Mirko Krokop for a fight line in public, if you will. Should you get a multi-year suspension from USADA, is your best bet seeking a release to fight in the land of the rising roids?
I think there's unfinished business in the UFC. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to the news today that started to coalesce around it. Like finally the Mauler started to speak up. He's been a kind of persona non-present, you know, and he's like, yeah, look, listen, it seems pretty clear to me that DC is afraid of me. Actual fact, man, you were an absent landlord, so it's not like DC was afraid of you. You haven't spoken up. I interviewed an MMA celebrity today for an article I'm writing. And she said, I won't say who it is because I don't want to cheat the Aussie piece, but she said, listen, you know what I spend my time doing? I spend my time doing research, my opposition research. And not for people I want to fight, but for people who are sick in my weight division. So if somebody's sick or injured, I'm making calls immediately. I'm getting on the phone with Sean Shelby, also known as Keith, and I'm saying, I'm here. And she's got a pretty good run of fights because she's paying attention to the weeds. You know, Gustafsson not paying attention to the weeds off there in Sweden, watching Bergman films. Don't know what the fuck he's doing, but I'm glad he's speaking up. But there is unfinished business in the UFC for Johnny Boney Joni. Going over to Bellator is only the kind of thing that you would do if you draw a 4-year suspension. And at that case, you gotta like, listen, you guys are, hey, okay, God love you. I'm a fighter. I got to go fight. This is ridiculous. I'm going to go. But if it's anything else, I mean, if it's something that puts him at the end of 2018, take it on the chin. If it's something that puts him at early 2019, but it's a good fight, live with it, you know. But at this point now, just saying, fuck you and going to Bellator, that would be hasty. He's been stupid, not hasty. Or rather, I've been stupid, not hasty.
What do you think, John?
Personally, I think no matter what, he should try to get out of his contract, go to Bellator, because that gives us a lot to write about, and we can cash in on that traffic. But, okay, if I'm Jon Jones and I'm representing him, I think Eugene's mostly right. You got to wait to see what USADA does and what the UFC does. If USADA comes back and gives him like a 3 to 4 year death sentence, and the UFC does nothing to stop that death sentence, then you got to seriously consider getting out of your contract because you really want to wait 3 or 4 years. I mean, even going to Bellator Rising, they won't pay as much to the UFC, but that's you might never get that career back by the time you come back. So I would secretly, surreptitiously get a third party to contact Bellator at that point or Rising and see how much they're willing to pay me if I went overseas and fought for them. And if it was enough, only, of course, if I'm banned from the UFC and I can't fight, then I would go ahead with Eugene's plan. Like, okay, I have money waiting for me. I'm stuck, and I'll try it. I bet you the UFC fights it like hell, though, because Jon Jones is not Krokop. He's a major figure in the sport. He's ranked #1. They're not going to, Krokop's an old fighter. Doesn't hurt him as much. They would fight the hell out of letting Jon Jones leave. But that's what I would recommend that he do.
That'd be a hell of a fight, though, right? If you think about it, because you talk about like justifying. Oh yeah, he can't fight anywhere 4 years.
Yeah, I mean legally. The only reason like Krokop, Vanderlei Silva, Chael Sonnen, all those guys got to leave is because the UFC gave up their contractual rights to them. because part of the reason is probably because of the class action lawsuit, the antitrust suit. They don't want to look like they're hanging on to guys too long, so they let them go. But you know, it's the one guy they didn't release was George St. Pierre when he said he's back and he's a free agent earlier this year, end of last year, or the year before, I should say, when he was coming back. They didn't say they didn't have his contractual rights anymore. That was one guy too valuable to let go, and I think Jon Jones would be the same. They would put up a hell of a fight to try to stop him.
Yeah, but then, I mean, this is the weird thing where, again, stupid and not hasty. I mean, I can completely see the absentee landlords that run the UFC, you know, the Baldwin, the Baldwin specifically saying, we're not going to defend him. You know, like he said, I'm emotionally out on Johnny Bonajeri. We're not going to defend him. We're not going to send him these signals. I mean, I don't know if you go back to the first Gulf War at George H.W. Bush. Fucking at some point, Saddam sent up a flag and goes, you know what I think? I think I want to invade Kuwait. And so what happens in those situations? Emissaries run by members of the Fifth Estate. You know, they run and say, hey, he says he's thinking about invading Kuwait. What do you have? And George H.W. Bush goes, you know, I don't have anything to do with that. I don't have a. You got to understand, Saddam understood that as tacit approval. Yep. So he went ahead and then fucking invaded Kuwait. The father got in trouble with the Poles. I need to do something macho. Get out of Kuwait. Knowing that predictably the guy would go, what the fuck? You told me to go in. I'll get fuck you. And then a fight ensues, and then he ends up at the end of a rope. This is the kind of thing where I could see the Baldwin not paying attention at all. They give him a 4-year suspension because he hasn't picked up the phone and said anything. Johnny Bonajoni fucking says, fuck it, I'm going to go to Bellator, and then he wakes up. You know, I mean, at this point now, if I'm confused about it's like if you watch Benny Hill, you're confused about any of the jokes, just think smut, right? You got, what is that? Smut. If you're confused about anything that the fucking UFC is doing, just think fucking chaos, because he's not paying attention, and he's purposefully, it seems to me, choosing the worst fucking thing every time, always, which would be not saying anything, getting the guy 4 years suspension, and then when he tries to bolt, then fucking hammering him for reasons that are non-specific when you could have just picked up the phone earlier. You know,
one interesting tactic though, if they did give Jon Jones a big sentence, and the UFC said they're going to honor that 3-4 year suspension. Well, if Jon Jones let him know that I might sign with Bellator Rise and fight overseas, because it might get the UFC to start thinking like, shit, how do we get out of this USADA deal then? I mean, at that point they go, we can, you know, it's bad enough not having Jon Jones not fight.
You know, think about all the, you know.
Yeah, they go, we it's bad enough not having Jon Jones not fight. It's even worse having him not fight for us, but fight for someone else.
Yep.
But do you think they're keeping this eye, though? I mean, one thing you talk about, they keep an eye on the wrong thing, is, you know, he's watching boxing during a UFC event, and then now he's watching his son doing amateur boxing, which I think is a fascinating little tell, right? In which his son's not trained in jiu-jitsu or participating in any kind of martial art, but he's doing amateur boxing. So it's a strange. What's your take on that? I mean, you can't give advice on this. I'm not going to give advice to him on his son's boxing career, but what both of you guys, what's your take on
the interesting thing for me was the biggest tell was he didn't show up at a PBC event this weekend. If he had done that and showed up with Al Heyman next to him, then I'd say, well, geez, he seems a lot more preoccupied with boxing than MMA right now.
Well, also, I don't what kind, I mean, you got, I don't know, Alexa, you got a kid. I'm kind of curious as to what kind of parent lets their kid box, you know? I mean, I'm completely down with MMA, because I know that part of the time you're kicking, part of the time you're doing grappling, part of the kickboxing. My kids did kickboxing and MMA, but pure boxing, that means at least half the time you're taking shots to the head. Who's fucking down with that, man? I don't.
My dad had no problem with that, and I have no brain problem at all.
Well, I mean, it's going back to his cardio boxing days, right? I mean, Dana.
He was a cardio karate guy, not a cardio boxing. You know, I thought it was cardio karate, hiya. I thought that's what he was doing. So
you see your fucking fist, take your fucking fist, open your fucking fist, and you're gonna karate somebody. Okay, that's what fucking you're gonna do.
I'm gonna tell you,
do you want to be a karate fighter or not?
When you're a kid, though, boxing, when you're young, tell you the truth, hitting in the face isn't the problem. It's getting hit in the gut. That's by far the worst. There's nothing worse than getting hit in the gut when you're like a 14 or 15-year-old. From experience, let me tell you that.
I used to box in the boys club, and I didn't mind getting hit in the face or the gut, but my mother didn't know. She thought I was there playing pool, and I quickly decided that the pool hall at the boys club was a much more dangerous place to be because periodically we wouldn't, in Brooklyn, you don't have food fights. People would have pool ball fights. I said, fuck this, man. I'm going to lose a fucking tooth. Crawled out of there. I'm going to go to someplace safe like the boxing ring. The same boys club, incidentally, gone to by Denzel Washington, who used to work with my cousin, like I said, in the post office.
Damn. Small world.
Small world.
And where's your hookup?
You know what? I'm trying to turn over a new leaf and not be the bitter guy I always am. And I was going to talk about Larry Fishburne. Used to live at the apartment building at the corner of my block. And then I interviewed Fishburne and we talked about the neighborhood. And I said, hey, man, I got a script, at the end of the interview. And he was like, fuck that. Fuck you, John. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Never give people a script.
Fuck that. What makes Sammy run? I got to get out. I need help. I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking for a hand. But he made that same face that you made. I was like, forget it, man. Prick. Fuck. Anyway.
Speaking of making faces, John, you're the MMAFA. What PR moves can you take to up your Twitter game?
Get off Twitter might help. That's probably one. I know people saw this the last couple of days. The MMAFA been in a Twitter feud war with a bunch of media members and fans, and I have some sympathy for them because I think I do think they get an unfair shake because they started before every other fighter organization tried to organize, and I think because they started before everybody else, they started in a period where everybody loved the UFC. And so they were the bad guys going against UFC. So they started already as the first impressions of everything. You're the bad guys. We don't like you. We don't like what you're doing. At the same time, they are terrible at PR. I think you can see how when people start saying that there's conspiracy, that there's money behind them, they're doing stuff. It's like there can't be any money behind them. Have you seen their PR on Twitter? How bad they are? They would have been hiring people if they had any money behind them. And so if I'm them, I think the number one thing I do is I stay off Twitter, stop arguing with people. Number two is even though they're not responsible for the class action lawsuit, they've attached themselves to it. Try to win that thing. And if you win that, you'll get a lot of people on your side and they'll be happy with you. But I definitely would not be fighting people on Twitter. I definitely, maybe there's some kid out there that's really good at PR that wants to do it for free and help them. I'd be out there asking for help. Because as much as I like Nate Corey is not he's not an expert at PR.
Really? I kind of wonder what he's an expert at. Wasn't he one of the first ones who tried to run up this? We need to have like a fighters union. People forget that. Wasn't he part of that? The first run at that shit.
But the first run was years ago, like 2008, 2009. Some people talked about it. I don't think he was. I think he was afraid to. If I remember right, he was afraid to talk about it back then.
Oh yeah,
he wasn't the first.
Well, I think I'm going to go with that sentence that goes like this: "Stay off of Twitter." Period. There you go. Yeah. Thank you. Give me my fucking check for being a PR executive. Stay off of Twitter. I mean, I keep expecting that at one point like I had a friend once say he looked at me and this guy was in my band and we were roommates for a long time. He goes, Eugene, I don't know, man. I can see you doing just about anything. And I was like, hey, no. I don't want to hear that from my fucking friends. I might need you for a character witness. I don't want to hear that shit, right? But I've been secretly thinking about, is there a nuclear bomb post that you could do on any of these social media forums, on Twitter? Other people seem to find it, like the woman who flew over somewhere, worked for some company, and tweeted something, and by the time the plane landed, it was internet sensation. She lost her job. She was now had to go.
Right. She said, "I'm going to South Africa. Hope I don't catch AIDS." Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. Right. So it's like, I mean, I think you got to know the room you're in and know your people. And I could put something like that up, and people would go, "Oh, that Eugene." I want to know if there's a post or a place that I could go that people would go, "Oh, that oh man, that's fucked up. And then delete. I don't know that I could.
Yeah, well, the other thing too, I remember that thing, that poor lady in a weird way. Everybody went nuts over. It's like it was a personal tweet. It might be a little insensitive, but you know, who doesn't say like dark humor with their friends?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you don't do it in a world where a billion people can see it and then get after you for it. But for the fighters and stuff, MMAFA, one thing I take Marvin Miller to heart. They can't worry about the fans' reaction. Marvin Miller used to always say that fans have absolutely no right to comment on how the fighters make their money. I mean, the athletes, the players make their money or what they do. They have no right on that. This is their job. This is their work. So forget the fans. Don't worry if the fans are upset at you. You got to focus on other fighters, and their PR is terrible to other fighters because they're getting boiled up in these arguments that make it look like that they invite people to say how they're going to ruin the sport, and you don't want to invite people to say how you're going to ruin the sport. But I would highlight too that everybody's worried that they're not getting. Oh, you're going to be enemies to the UFC. That's terrible. I would also embrace Marvin Miller thing about what was he said? If at any point the owner starts singing my praises, there's only one thing to do: fire me. And I would embrace that. That part I would embrace. It's like a little judo and say, hey, listen, people might hate what I'm saying, but it's the truth. We don't care about them. But then I'd get off Twitter after that because you're not helping yourself on Twitter.
And there's another sentence I would edit just for the sake of brevity. Get off Twitter, period.
It's Twitter with the characters. You could even do it shorter by just dropping the period. You don't need it on Twitter.
Yeah.
So one thing that's a little short, the members of John's Legion of Doom.
All right, we got a new member. Originally, I was going to go with the Fabulous Moolah from Pro Wrestling because I saw the reaction about her and I learned about all of her dastardly deeds and stuff. But since this is an MMA show, more combat sports, and that's entertainment, sports entertainment, a fake. Well, we'll stick to that. I just had a brainstorm. I thought I have a new dastardly, someone more dastardly that I should have instead named to the Legion of Doom. And this person is apparently attempting to destroy the UFC solely for revenge and spite. They're apparently financed by a secret cabal who will stop at nothing to ruin the sport of MMA and bankrupt the UFC through a class action lawsuit that will only see money go to our villain. And that person is Rob Macy of the MMAFA. At least the one is described by the people on Twitter this week. So because if he's doing everything that these people say that he's doing, that Machiavellian bastard deserves to be on the Legion of Doom.
Wow. Huh. Okay. I kind of got hung up on the whole fabulous. Can you give us a taste of the Fabulous Moolah? Seriously.
Now you're like, hey, let's go back and add the Fabulous Moolah. Well, Fabulous Moolah, she didn't quite make it. She's more like when you're Ramrod from Hardcore, that's a villain, but that's not a super villain. And she's more of Ramrod from the movie Hardcore. And that she's a female pro wrestler who's, I guess they're honoring with the WWF. But in the old days, like back in the 50s and 40s and 60s, whatever, when she was working, she supposedly would kind of like befriend female wrestlers, take them under her wing, then get them hooked on drugs and basically start and solicit them and basically start pimping them out to people.
Fucking A, man.
Look at that. Eugene's so happy.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, we'll swap it back. She's now on the Legion of Doom.
Hey, I had this friend and her, she's like a hot shit journalist, right? And her cousin was like, 19 and had a kid, right? It's an Italian family scandal, right? And she says, I'm going to go take night classes. She's taking night classes with her friend. And her friend goes, hey, let's go meet my boyfriend for lunch. And so they go to meet the boyfriend for lunch in a local mall. At some point, she goes, oh, I have a call. I got to take this call. She gets up and leaves this woman's cousin with the baby and her quote unquote boyfriend, who after about 5 minutes, drops a hammer that essentially, a girl like you're so pretty, we could make a lot of money together, if you know what I mean. And I was like, oh shit. I'm 19. I'm sitting here with a 6-month-old kid, and this guy is trying to turn me out. I need new friends.
Did you accept the offer? And did you make any money on that?
No.
I should correct one thing. I screwed up one thing, and it just hit me. And it's not Ramrod's not hardcore. Hardcore is George C. Scott. Ramrod is Vice Squad in Hollywood. So
yeah, that's right. Good for you. That's right. Oh my God, that was the movie poster from Hardcore, and that was a Paul Schrader deal, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So he had his hands on Taxi Driver, and then as he was climbing out of the hole that got him in the Taxi Driver, he generated Hardcore. I guess he felt guilty. That Mennonite background, Midwestern Mennonite background to his, you know.
I mean, one thing about Moolah, going back to her, is you know, her original gimmick was Slave Girl Moolah.
Yeah. I think she knew of what she spoke, you know.
Oh Lord. So Eugene, who's in your Lost Battalion?
Two people. I'll save the most predictable one for last. I will read you the quote. I'll give you a chance to guess. I'll read you the quote from the entry here. Quote, "I'm looking to be #1 contender by the end of the year, period," end quote. Anybody? Bueller? Anybody?
Oh, I remember this one.
Mm.
Is this your boy Johnny?
Nah, it's Michael Chiesa.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even have to say anything. I just say the name, and you're like, "Oh, you fucking kidding me?" Hashtag Misty as fuck. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? However, he is in an interesting space because he's fighting. He's going to fight Pettis at 223. So while he is on the verge of the Lost Battalion, Pettis is event horizoned, which means if Pettis loses to Chiesa, he's sort of like, there's no more road, man. Diana Ross said it best. Where does the road turn? I guess that's where it fucking turns. And Chiesa looks like a genius at that point for winning, but he's still, at the end of the year, he's only beating Pettis. And I guarantee you, if he does beat Pettis, he'll be astride the cage, making the universal Misty, the Misty semaphore of this. I gotta. this means that means I'm looking for the mist. I'm looking for the mist. Or
that's the initiation ritual, right? You gotta
right.
Show us this a flash as a last step. Flash the side.
That's right. And then my other one is Rhonda, man. I mean, this little bit of cuteness today of, "I'm not saying I'm retired," she says to Ellen. "I'm not saying I'm retired, but, you know, I might go back to the Olympics and compete." And just shut the fuck up. Just shut up. Just go. As far as I'm concerned, you're a TV star in a very bad TV show now. Go do that and be that. And people go like, well, why could Brock go? Because Brock was at least a fucking famous fake fucking wrestler. Actually, he was a semi-famous real wrestler, then became a totally famous fake wrestler, and then had some sort of profile. But I mean, what is this cuteness? Do you feel any clamor, any hue, any cry? Does anybody? It's like when they Ice Cube first sang about Cypress Hill when they had the beef. I go, nobody's rocking you in the hood. Not like Ice Cube at that point was in the fucking hood, but it was a jibe that bit. And this is the same kind of thing. There's no constituency waiting for this to happen, you know? And I guarantee you, if she does the kind of stuff that would be necessary to make that an interesting thing, the return of the queen, we would know about it. You know, like if she had fired Tyra Vavardian, or she was, you know, working seriously training, you know, but we got spies everywhere, and I'm not getting any wind of that.
I thought it was weird in her comment. She said, "Oh, it's just, you know, I've always been on my own, and now I'm part of a team." I was like, "Damn, that's one way to kind of shit on your gym." Like, what the
yeah, I don't know.
Right?
I don't know what the hell that's about.
You're not training. You're not part of a thing when you're training. It's training. I thought like maybe she's talking about, yeah.
The whole thing was depressing from top to bottom. I don't know what the hell she's thinking.
Well, on that positive note, thanks for joining us. Follow us on Twitter, EUGENE'S Robinson, Lex the Old, Hey Not the Face, Facebook, MMA Pancholes.
Pancholes!
Please give a thumbs up, Eugene.
There's a thumbs up, Eugene style.
Leave comments on YouTube, subscribe to MMANation.com, YouTube, MMA Nation on iTunes, visit Bloody Elbow, buy 7 secret sources of inspiration by Oxbow's Thin Back Duke, where fine music is sold. John, what should they buy of yours?
Nothing. I have nothing to say. I guess I have some furniture out in the yard tomorrow. I got an article coming up in a day or two, so
right.
look out for that.
So I think we got to ask you every time you come on because we find the changing answer. I got some furniture. I got some.
Well,
some
I have
maybe
actually,
a little.
we're coming up in May. We're coming up on the year of Thin Black Duke being released, and so the label will do their accounting then. So if you're sitting on the fence about buying the Thin Black Duke, iTunes, Amazon, know that the counter goes straight up until like May 4th. So buy. Make us look good in the eyes of our label, so they can buy fine champagne they will not give us.
Meaning, follow this show. Speaking of fine champagne, be sure to check out our new non-MMA show, If the Shoes Fit. Eugene, how do they find that out?
Right below this very picture, there's going to be a link. We're going to log out of this show. Bye-bye. And then we're going to log back into If the Shoes Fit immediately. So we'll see you in 3 minutes if you want us to hear us do the same thing about non-MMA topics.
Let me just be clear, though. I got a feeling that Nate Wilcox did not put the link in the description this time. So if it's not there, Google If the Shoes Fit, Alexi Old, so you don't get some old movie, and then go to the link. Because I guarantee you, Nate forgot to do that.
Oh, because Nate is sick.
We're back next week. Oh, well, maybe this is part of the outro because we back next week and learn song. If I did it, we don't know what we're going to be talking about yet because the apparent mistakes and the flu has yet to be resolved.